Now? Seriously, now? That's my water. Here, go ahead, take it. Take it. Yeah. I gotta get off the keyboard. No. Gotta create a new project. Okay, and I need to get the array. There we go. Okay, so how did I do that, Lance? That's my secret. I took the Lab 3 Python notebook. I went to CoCalc and I created a new directory called Lab 3. Then in that directory, I didn't create a file, I actually uploaded files. So the first thing I did is I downloaded Lab 3 IPYNB to my local machine, and then went to CoCalc and uploaded it. And then to get the graphic, I grabbed an array image JPEG, downloaded it to my local machine, and then uploaded it to CoCalc. And so now I have the Lab 3 that I intended. And I will take about 5 minutes to introduce the lab, and then I'll let Farang work through it with you all. So the first part, it introduced a list, and I have the word array here, although array is a particular structure in NumPy, but it's just a collection of data that are somehow related. And so if you remember from math, you had things like x sub 0, x1, x sub 2, x sub 3. Those are called subscripted variables. They had a name, x, and they had a subscript which identified the particular variable in an ordered position. And so the variable name is x. The subscripts correspond to different values. The value of the variable associated with subscript 3 in this example is the number 9. And here's a picture of the same situation. Variable name is my list. Contents, you can think of them as in these cells that are in sequential order. The address of the cell is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And the contents are what are in the cell, 7, 11, 5, 9, 13. And so in the figure, important, that's a different one I had in mind. Some of these, if you come across a cell that looks like it should be code and it's showing as raw, it's intended for you to switch it to code. This is a markdown cell, so that's just supposed to be narrative material. We can also create null lists, and the rendering isn't exactly. So you can create a list, which is you would use the syntax list name equals square bracket open, square bracket closed. That creates space for something, but it's null. There's nothing in it. And then we can use the append method to fill it as needed. That has a lot of value. And so, for example, my list 3 has number 9. So the first exercise, you're going to take this list and choose elements from positions 3 to 10, then calculate the sum and length of the elements from 3 to 7, and print the slice list and values of sum from the slice list. The second one is to remove the element at position 4, add it to the second position, and then add it to the end of the list, and then print the original list and the modified list. We introduce a tuple, but don't do anything with it. And then we have a dictionary list, and then here's a set of examples for different things. So here's a tuple, my pet's name and mass, and so on. And if you run this script, it does what was already there. So this part's intended just as an example. There's nothing to do here with this section of code. But the next section is work is you have this dictionary, and you want to pick from this dictionary the string hello. Next, we'll move on to conditional execution exercises. So there's a few examples with comparing things. So the equals, not equals, greater than, less than, and then the logical operators and, or, and not. And then we move to the block if, which we already saw in lecture in some things. So if the condition is met, do A, or do B, or do C, or do E. Well, I left the D out. I guess I didn't want to do E. Else if, elif means else if, and the colon is an important part of the structure. You notice there's no scope delimiters. Instead, it uses indentation to isolate the blocks of code. And that convention is important. A lot of other coding environments use delimiters, but Python does not. Then you have curious why this error message comes if it was left over or not. Here's an example of block if and using the input function. So it's going to ask us for number 1 or 2, and then it's going to make it. going to perform an action based on the number 1 or 2. So if I enter a 1, I get hello world. How do I do? If I repeat it, enter a 2, I get snakes on a plane. Terrible movie, but it was a lot of fun. Run it again, and we'll put cat dig, and it's figured out I didn't enter a 1 or a 2. And then you can actually build these structures in such a way, and there's not an example here, that if you don't enter usable data, it'll keep going in a circle until you get frustrated and disconnect. There's another type of statement called an inline if. I show a couple examples of it. I see this less common when I look at other people's work, but it's built into the tool. And then exercise 4, you are going to determine whether or not someone can take a test on whether they went to enough classes. It's sort of a dumb way to do it. And then your last exercise is you're pulled over by a RoboCop and you find out you can get into their code, and you want to modify the script a little and give yourself a higher speed limit. You don't want to make it so obvious that when they goes back for maintenance and a recharge, they find out that you've been in it. So you would have this original script. The original script issues a ticket if you're going between 60 and 80, and it's a $100 ticket. And if you go more than 81, if you go 81 or more, it's a $500 ticket. But if it's your birthday, you get an extra 5 miles an hour in all cases. And so that's what this one is. And you can suppose that maybe you're going 82 and you actually want to only pay the $100 fine. You probably don't want to pay anything, but again, if you're going to hack into robotic code, you don't want to make your changes too obvious. So you're going to modify this script to meet these new conditions. So keep that in mind on 6, and say that you modify the existing scripts. The way I would do is I would copy this script to the modified script cell and then work there so you don't break the original one. Okay, I'm going to hand control to Farang, and let's see, remember how to do that. Stop sharing. Find him. We'll be there some time. There you go. Okay, Farhang is now the
Thank
host.
you.
And I will monitor the chat for a while.
Hey, hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Before,
That's what it is.
pardon?
What?
Emma, are you talking to me or your mic is just on?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. So, let me open my chat box so I can follow that as well. Okay, so when I'm looking at my list of participants, I see no one in the waiting room. But if you notice that someone is waiting to come in, please let me know. And before we actually keep working on the notebook that Dr. Cleveland was explaining, I wanted to go over some remarks from the first week. The first one and the most important one is that please do not wait until the last minutes to ask questions or to submit your assignments and quizzes on Blackboard. And the reason is in this meme that I have here that says I don't always need to submit things on Blackboard, but when I do, it's down. So that's going to happen many times. And if you just go and Google Blackboard memes on Google, you will see tons of these, all talking about how Blackboard tends to go down or slow when you need it the most. So please be careful about that. Then something else that I wanted to talk about is that I have 2 online office hours every week. And something that I noticed was that I get like 1 or 2 students coming to my office hours, but then I get tons of emails on the other times of the week. While I completely understand that some of you may not be free during those office hours, the only thing that I wanted to mention is that when you email me outside those times, I will try to reply as soon as possible, but that may be too late if you are like 2 hours away from your deadline. And that will cause some troubles for you, and I don't want that to happen. So if you have some critical issue that you need help with or something like that, please let me know earlier or come to the office hour meeting so that we can go over them. Something else about uploading HTML files on Blackboard. Blackboard doesn't like HTML files because of some security concerns. So if you really want to upload an HTML file, you need to zip it. But remember that PDFs are preferred. They are easier for you. They're easier for us. So try to stick with PDFs unless we ask for a notebook or something like that. Then, okay, these 2 are from what you need to do from this week on. From this week on, Dr. Cleveland has decided to change the deadlines for the lab assignments to Wednesday. So, for example, the lab that we work on today will be due next week on Wednesday, and not on Monday or Sunday anymore. This way you will have at least 1 office hour before your deadline for the labs, and that's something that you need to know. The other thing is that from this week on, we want you to please add a cell similar to what I have here on the top of your notebook. So we want you to have your full name. What about Thursday lab? That will also be due next Wednesday. So you will have the Monday office hour and the Wednesday office hour to ask your questions. Brayden, I hope that has answered your question. So we want your full name, we want your R number, we want your hexadecimal code, we want the title of your notebook, and we want the date of that notebook. Now, the question is, what is the HEX? The HEX is something that you can get with a little piece of code that I have here. So you just go ahead and type in your R number, and then you will ask your notebook to generate hexadecimal code for you. That will look something like this. This will be unique to you because this is generated based on your R number. And we want both of them in your initial cell that you put on the top of your notebooks. So I can copy this also in the chat box. Just remember that instead of the RN, you need to put in your own R number. So I'm gonna wait like 10 seconds to see if you have any questions on this, and then we'll go and work on lab 3.
Do you want us to put this on the top of our page or at the bottom?
We want it on the top of your page, but if in case you put it on the bottom of your page, it's gonna be okay.
Because I don't know how to put it on the top, except being the same line.
Good question. So let's say I have one block, one cell here, and one cell here, and I want to move them. when I select a cell, I can just come here and click on this arrow, and it will move it up.
Oh, wow.
Or down.
Okay.
So, good question. Why does programming have hex? What do we use it? That is something that I have just been Googling today. Here is a little video that you may like on hex. Let me. So when you actually ask this question from Google, it will tell you hexadecimal numerals are widely used by computer system designers and programmers as they provide a human-friendly representation of binary coded values. Each hexadecimal digit represents 4 binary digits, also known as a nibble, which is half a byte. If you're curious about applications of this, you can easily Google them. There are plenty of cool weblogs talking about them. But for the sake of your lab assignments, we just want your generated hex code. No, Brandon, this is not included in the document that you've downloaded. This is something that you need to add. So, yeah. Okay, let us...
You have both pieces of text as code.
Can you come again?
Do we have both sets of text into code, or is one markdown?
This cell that you need to include is just markdown. You need to run this piece of code once to get your unique hex code, and after that you don't need that anymore. You just need to have the code.
Okay.
Cool. So, let us go to your Lab 3 notebook. So something that I want you to do is to, for example, come here, add a cell, make sure that it's marked down, and then start putting what I just told you about here. For me, it will look something like this. And I can actually go and get this code from here, and then add it here. And when I run it, it will look something like this.
Okay, for the important remarks, IP, Y, and B, is that a downloaded thing that you added to the
this one? No. This is just a list that I created for myself so that I can remember all the things that I want to tell you.
Oh, okay. But we have to do that, like just add another one and just run that code?
You're talking about this cell?
Yeah.
Yes,
both of them.
You can just, I have pasted this in the chat box so that you can have it, but you can just come to your Lab 3, create a markdown cell, and start typing your information very, very normally like you're doing a text. So full name, R number, hex, title of the notebook, and then the
Oh, okay, so it doesn't have to be in a different one. I can still do it in Lab 3?
Yes. Actually, we want you to add this to every notebook that you will work on from this point on.
Okay. Does it matter exactly where I put it?
No, we prefer it on top, but if you want to put it on the bottom, just put it there. It doesn't make any sense to put it in the middle of the notebook, so I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
So, let us proceed with Lab 3. Something else, something that happened, especially in our previous session, is that for one specific part of the notebook, there might be 10 or 15 questions that are basically asking the same thing. So just because I want to make sure that we can cover everything that we're supposed to in that lab session, I may answer 2, 3, 4 questions at each step and then move on. If you still have a question that has not been answered, you can wait until the end of the session, and I will stay longer if you need to ask questions. Even though Dr. Cleveland may have to close down this meeting, I will send you another Zoom meeting link and you can join that.
Thank you.
Okay, someone asked for this. Yes, I'm going to give that to you as well. Okay. Now, as Dr. Cleveland has already told you, initially you'll see a list and how we index different elements in a list. So if you look at this example that we're seeing in this image, for example, you have a list of 7, 11, 5, 9, 13, and so on. This list has n plus 1 elements. Why? Because in Python, we start counting from 0. And we know that, for example, the element in position 1 is 11. The element in position 4 is 13. And this is just an illustration of it, but we can actually communicate based on the same logic with Python. So I want you to create one empty cell right below this. So where it says my list 3 has a value of the number 9, I want you to create an empty list.
How would you create the list? We just put my list and then...
That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to create a list from scratch. So,
do we need to copy all the stuff above that down?
No. I just want you to create one empty cell.
Oh, so start the cell like right under where we put our name and stuff?
No. You created that cell right on top. Here you can click on this sentence where it says my list 3, and then click on this plus sign that inserts a cell below, and you will have an empty cell.
Where'd you get all this stuff above that from, though?
Haven't you downloaded Lab 3, the one that Dr. Cleveland was already talking about before I come in?
I must not have.
Okay, so similar to what you did on previous session, you will go to Blackboard, to Lesson 3 folder, to the laboratory folder. There is a link there that will take you to a directory that looks like, one moment. That looks like this. Then you will download this notebook. On my computer, which is a Windows machine, I can just go ahead and click on Save Link As and save it to a folder that I want. And then I will go to my CoCalc and upload it to my list. And then I open it. Similar to what we talked about last time, if it saves or uploads as a text file, you can rename it in CoCalc and just remove the .txt part from the end, and it will be good to go. Okay, so we have 2 ways of creating a list. The first one is to first define a list that is empty, that has nothing in it. So for example, I can go and call it list 1. equals to square brackets open and close. This will create an empty list. So in fact, if I go ahead and say print list 1, it will not do anything, and it will just show me open brackets, close brackets, because there is nothing in it. Now I can add an item to my list by using the append function. How does that work? I can just say I want to add something to my list 1. So list1 dot append, and then a number that I want to add. Let's go with 765. Add an element now. If I do that and then I want to print, it will give me a list with 765 in it. And I can actually do that again. Let's add 422.
All right. Is the append method for all like the tuples and stuff like that, or is it just for lists?
It works on lists.
Okay.
And also it does depend on the work. So like use append to only add an element to the end of the list?
Exactly. Very good catch. Yes. If you use append just like we did, it will add the element that you are talking about to the end of your list.
Okay.
Okay. So that was one way of creating a list. I think you already know this, but I'm gonna just say that again. Whatever I type after a hashtag in a code cell will be considered as a note. It will not be considered as a code or notebook. And I personally like adding notes to my scripts, and I recommend it to you as well, because in many cases when you are in the middle of something, you are very aware of everything that is happening and you don't feel the need to type in notes. But when you work on something else and you come back to your initial script after 2 months, 6 months, a year, you will feel confused about many things. But if you have notes already there, that will make things easier. So another way is that instead of creating an empty list, we just define a list with all the elements in it. So for example, I can go and say my list 2, I want to have a list of, let's say, 7, 11, 5, 8, and 4. And then if I print this, you will see that it will give me a list with all the elements that I defined. Okay. This was what I wanted to tell you about defining lists. Now, we can do, once we have a list, we can do some things with that list. For example, look at my list 2. It has 5 elements in it. And let's say that I want to make a sublist of it. So I will call it my sublist 2. And let's say that I want to select 11 and 5 from my list. So my 11 is standing on position 1 because 0 is 7, 1 is 11, 2 is 5. So I want my 1 and 2 in my list 2. So from list 2, I want it to go and get this for me. you see, it will get 11 from position 1 and 5 from position 2. And please remember that my sublist is still a list from the type perspective, or structure perspective. Now let's say that I want to compute the summation of the elements in a list. So I can go and say sum1 is equal to the sum function, and I will just say sublist 2 in there. And then I want to print my sum1. Sorry about that. So here you will see that it will go look at my sublist 2, which was a list of 11 and 5, sum those up, and put it in my object that I defined as sum1. So let me add this note. Sum the numbers in the sublist 2. Another function that you may find useful is length. So I call it lensub, and it will be the len of my sublist 2. What do you think this will tell me?
The number of elements in your list.
Exactly, thank you very much. So it will tell me that it's 2. And for example, if I want to run that on my list 2, it will be len list 2, the length of list 2.
Oh, fuck you.
Print len list 2. And this time it will tell me 5 because there are 5 elements in my list 2.
Are you able to find the length of like certain elements within a list, or do you have to create a new list for like elements like 3 through 7 or something like that?
Actually, let's give that a try. So you want to, for example, go directly, and I'm going to call it len try. You want to get the length of a sublist without defining the sublist, right?
Yes.
So list 2, 1, 2, 3. And then we want to print len try. It works. So if you just want to get the length of a sublist, you do not need to define it as a separate object.
Oh, okay, got it.
But the thing is, in an example like this, since you are the one defining from what element to what element you want to subtract, you already know the length, right?
Yeah.
But yes, that is something that you can do. Okay, I'm gonna wait for like another 10 minutes and then move on if you have no more questions.
My list 2, where we enter the 5 elements, keeps saying that list 2 is not defined.
So did you run this?
Yes.
With the square brackets?
Yes.
So let me create another cell here. So you're telling me that if you go and are you sure that you are doing the higher case L?
I'll try it again.
Because Python is case sensitive. So
It still says the same thing.
okay, so if I go and follow me with this, create another cell, make sure that it's code, and go ahead and say list2 is equal to square brackets 4, 6, 8. And then on the line below, print open parentheses list2 with exactly the same dictation.
I see where the problem was.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Okay, cool.
I'm getting a traceback error. I don't know what that means.
Brayden, can you come again?
I'm getting a traceback error.
Where?
On my, I said sum list, then equals sum, and then in parentheses I put my list.
So you were good for this part. As soon as you did this, you got the error?
Yes.
Okay, so
The line above the print sum one.
here is where you got. Okay, so your sublist 2 is defined.
Yes.
Is it all numbers?
Yes.
So a traceback error in Python is a report containing the function called made in your code. So are you sure that your sum is all in lowercase?
Usually at the bottom, the traceback error block, so it's a pink block. At the bottom, the lastmost entry is its best guess at what the actual error is. So that's the line you're very interested in. It's the last line in the pink block of the error.
It says int object is not callable.
Okay, so looking at what you just pasted in the chat box, I'm seeing some issues. So your sum list has a lowercase s, but when you are printing it, it has a higher case s.
Yes.
Fix it and tell me if
no, that doesn't fix it.
it works.
It did not fix it.
It did not fix it. Okay. Then you have a list. And you are summing up that list.
What's the bottom line of your pink block say? You said it says int not.
It's int object is not callable.
So you have an integer object somehow. So set my list.
Brayden, try reducing the elements in your list and just go with 3 simple numbers and see if it helps.
Okay.
Go with 2, 5, 7.
That did not fix it.
Did not fix it. Okay, let me paste what you had. This is what you had.
It's pointing at line 2, so I would.
Sum list is not defined. Yes. It works for me. The exact same code that you pasted in the chat box, it works for me. All I did was changing this capital S to lowercase s.
Are you using the right kernel?
Yes.
Okay, what you can do is make sure that you've saved everything, close the tab, and open your code calc from the beginning and see if that helps. Because if this was like a syntax issue or something like that, it should have shown on my computer as well.
Where is the save button at?
That green button right on top next to File.
Okay.
So I'm trying to run my code, and every time I click run, nothing happens.
Which?
Same here. Same issue.
Okay.
Me too.
We were working on this. So you have this cell.
Yes, I copied everything like exactly like
everything
you
you
did. And from
did.
the start, it wouldn't run.
Same
It wouldn't run.
Or I would click run, and it would just bring me down to the next cell.
Is it in code?
Yes, it is.
And as you were doing it step by step, was it giving you the same issue from the top?
Yes, it just wouldn't run. Or it just wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't print anything out.
Yeah, nothing happened.
Let's create another cell. Let's create a new cell. And in that cell, just type A is equal to 10, and then print A. Okay, and then run that.
Oh, it's not even giving me that.
Nothing. Yeah.
Okay,
That works for me.
It says line or like line 0. It's like to the left, like the code cell.
When you look at this side of your screen, do you see Python 3 system-wide?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to make sure that you have saved everything, and then close your browser and restart your code calc.
Okay.
Let me know if anything changes.
Still nothing from me.
Still nothing?
No.
So, go to the top of your notebook
Yeah.
and start running all the cells from the top. Until you get to that print A.
Still nothing.
Yeah, my code won't even print.
It doesn't print?
No.
Yeah, it just skips over to the next cell.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you any errors, anything.
That's
no
right.
errors. It just skips it and goes to the next cell.
Same for me as well.
Really? Interesting. Okay, let's try something else. Go to Files and create a new Jupyter notebook. Name it whatever you want. Just name it Second Chance. And when it asks for kernel, just pick Python 3 system-wide. And here, say A equals to 10, and then print A.
Works there.
It works there, right?
Yep.
So, during this lab, try to do whatever I do in a separate cell in your new notebook.
In this one right now?
Yes, you can use the same one.
Okay.
You can keep going back and forth between the previous notebook and this one because they're simply here as tabs, but run all your codes in the new one if that works there.
Okay, and when I submit it, will I have to submit the one I'm doing my work in?
No, as long as you submit all your exercises in one place and you have that cell that I told you on top, you're good.
Okay.
This is something that I will will discuss with Dr. Cleveland. I don't know what are the possible reasons for your notebooks to do that, but we will try to figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
So, it was Braden. Braden, did you manage to resolve your issue?
No, I'm trying to remake my thing also.
Okay, if you still have that issue, we can go over it after the lab session, okay? So, let us move on. What we did in that example that we worked on is identical to what you need to do in exercise 3. So it is asking you to, for the list given below, index and pick all the elements from index positions 3 to 10, calculate the sum and the length of the elements from index positions 3 to 7, print the sliced list, and the values of the sum and the sliced list. So that is exactly what we did. You will do that for this list that is given to you, and that will be your exercise 1. Good? Is there any questions? Okay. Now, let's go to list manipulation exercise. I want you to click on exercise 2 cell and then add a new cell there, because we are going to work on our own stuff. So let's create a new list. I'm going to call it my list, and it will be a combination of numbers. So 7, 11, 5, 9, 13, 16, 19, 9, and 223. You will define a list and you print it, you will see the elements in it. Nothing new here. Now, let's say that for some reason we want to go in this list and remove the third element. The third element in this list will be 5. First, second, third. But if you want to count in Python, that will be position 2. Position 0, Rocky. Position 0, position 1, and position 2. So I will go ahead and say element equals to my list. This is where I want to do my stuff. And POP, and then the position that I'm interested in, which is 2. And if I want to print this element that we just defined, it should give me 5, which is what I was looking for. Now, let's say that I want to add this element, or this 5, to the beginning of my list. I will go with my list again because I want to work on that. Insert, where I want to put it. If I want to put it at the beginning, that will be position 0. And then what do I want to insert there? My element. if I want to print my list after all this, you will see that the element 5 has been added to the beginning of my list. We do that with this function, insert.
So pop is like, is it like return in Java? Do you know?
What pop does
remove.
is that it picks out the elements that you are defining, and if you want, you will put it in another object. For me, in this case, it was element.
So it's also a return method.
Yeah, and Dr. Cleveland just added some information on how pop works and what it does. Thank you very much. With the same idea, if I want to add an element to the end of my list, I can either use insert and select the last position, or I can use something that you're already familiar with. Can you tell me that?
And also a question. So the element that was replaced just disappears, right?
Yes. When you use the pop function, it removes the elements that you want from the list. When you use insert, it will add it back to the position that you want. And the answer to the question that I asked was the append function. So if you want to add an element to the end of your list, you will go with append. So I will go mylist.append, and then I want to add element. I'm not defining a position, because with append, it will be added to the end of the list automatically. Add the element 5 to the end of the list. If I print it now, you will see that it has been added to the end as well. So I'm gonna wait another 10 seconds here to see if you have any questions about this. So we talked about the pop function, the insert function, and the append function to play around with lists. Brandon, you mean like can you hear me and the video is frozen, or you can't hear me at all? Okay,
I think that's just a him problem.
Oh, so no one else has that issue?
I'm not having that issue.
Okay.
Can you quickly go to exercise 1?
Exercise 1. The one that the example that I covered, or the one in the question?
The one that you covered.
Okay, here you
go. Okay. Huh. I'll get some length. Should probably just take a screenshot. Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna put it in the chat box for you as well. Go ahead.
Exercise 2, are we doing exactly what you just did, just with the list that is given?
Exactly. So what I did was basically what you have to do for exercise 2 on this list.
Okay, perfect.
What did I do? One moment. Okay, on this list. That it's not just numbers. So Brandon is coming back in. Cool. So if you have no questions about exercise 2, we will move forward.
Wait, for exercise 2, when you print the element, are you wanting to print just that number, or did you want us to print the list without that number?
When I ask print element, that will give me the one that I tried to remove. Now let's read the question and see what it is asking. From the list given below, remove the element at the index position 4 and add it to the second position, and also add it at the end of the list. print the original list and also the list after each step of altering the list elements. So if you want, you can also go ahead and print your list after the pop, but that is not a deal breaker.
Okay, got it.
Travis, you are running ahead and looking at exercises that your eyes are not ready for. So give it a few seconds, we will get there. For exercise 2, index position 4 is 91. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct. So let us move. Here we talk about tuples, and something that I want you to do just to get a better feeling about tuples is that click on this cell, add a new cell right below that, and create a tuple very similar to what we have here. Okay? How do we know that we are creating a tuple here? Come on, don't be shy. How come this is not a list and this is a tuple?
The parentheses are...
Cool, thank you very much. So, you will define a tuple here, and very similar to what you did with our list on exercise 2, I want to add December to the beginning of my tuple. What will happen if you run it?
Give you an error.
Yes. Why is that?
You can't add elements to tuples.
Exactly. So that's something that you need to be aware of. You cannot play the same games as you did with lists with tuples. They are not just that kind of objects. So that's all I wanted to show you about tuples. Now about dictionaries. Dictionaries are kind of cool because you can think of them as lists that come in couples. And in a structure like this, we call the first item the key. These are not very strange things that I'm saying. I'm basically giving you a summary of what is written here. So the first item in the pair is called the key and must be unique in a dictionary. So for example, in something like this, you cannot have Dusty 7.8 and then again at the end Dusty 10. If you want to associate 7.8 and 10 with Dusty, you have to do it right here. You cannot have two similar keys in one dictionary. And the second item in the pair is called data. And something that I realized in the States is that some people call it data, some people call it data. And I still hadn't found a silver bullet on that. So you can call it whatever you want. Now, let us go ahead and, okay, we covered this. Let us go ahead and create a dictionary. We are going to use the same one in the example, my pet's name and mass 2. And whenever you are dealing with an object name that has too many uppercase, lowercases, I strongly recommend that you copy every time, because that may cause many errors that you don't have to spend your time on. So with this one, you'll go with curly brackets. So we have Dusty as our first key, and the data associated with it is mass, which is 7.8. And I think we are talking about Dr. Cleveland's cats. but I'm not sure about the unit here. Or I think they're kilograms. Yeah, but then I'm very worried about marry me, because that's very, very low.
Marry me is a little mouse.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense now. So Aspen is our second key, and the data associated with it is 6.3. And then we have marry me as our third key, and the mass associated with it is 0.03. 0.03. Okay. And then always it's a good idea to go and print something that you do to make sure that you're doing it right. If you do that, you will get the dictionary exactly the way you defined it. That is one way of defining a dictionary. Another way would be to use the dict function. So you can call this one number 2 and go with the dict function. So in this one, you're not using curly brackets anymore, because dict is a function and you will go with parentheses. And the syntax is slightly different. So you will go with your first key without the quotation marks. So Dusty equals to the data, which is 7.8. Then Aspen equals to the data, which is 6.3. And then marry me is equal to 0.03. And then you can print it. And when you run it, the result is identical. So as a note, I will add one way of defining the dictionary, then another way of defining the same dictionary, and mind the formatting. So, do you have any questions so far? Let me have a look at the chat box. Okay, nothing here. So, shall we move on? Okay, so if you're good on that part, create a new cell, and we are going to play around with some tuples and dictionaries. We already have this, so you can actually scroll up and copy this line here. Okay? We can access a tuple in a very similar fashion as we did with the list. So, for example, here we want to talk about the fifth element of the tuple, or the element located in the fourth position. So, what are we expecting to get? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We are expecting to get May. And let's see what we get. Yay! So, as I said, we are not going into too much details with tuples. Now, with a dictionary, again, I want you to go up there and copy the one that you created, my pet's name and mass. Then about accessing the dictionary, we are more interested in the pairwise associations in a dictionary, while like in a list or a tuple, we are interested in positions. So if I want to know Aspen's mass, I will go to my pet's name and mass dictionary and look for Aspen, because Aspen was the key for that data. So if I run this, it will bring out the 6.3 for me.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's called, when you put my tuple name 4, what is that? Like, is that parentheses? Like,
here?
Access a tuple, the one lower below that one?
Okay. This means that I want the element located in the fourth position of my tuple. So this is my tuple, right?
Right.
If I start counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will give me May.
And are you enclosing that in like parentheses?
No, this is a square brackets.
Square brackets?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very similar to what we used here when we were defining the list.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Now, let's say we want to go ahead and change a value in our dictionary. So, for example, where am I? Here. If I want to check Mary Me's mass, similar to what I did with Aspen, I will just ask for Mary Me as the key and look for the data. If I do that, it will tell me that Mary Me's mass is 0.03 kilograms. But let's say that I want to go in and, as I remeasured the mass, I want to replace that number. What I do is I simply go in and say that in my dictionary, which is named my pet's name and mass, I want to go in my key, which is Marry Me, and I want this number to replace the data that is already there. So let's say instead of 0.03, we measured her today, and the new mass is 0.01 kilograms. If I do that, and then I just rerun the same or command as I did previously, this time it will tell me that Mary Me's mass is 0.01. And this was something cute, so I don't want to lose it. You can just go with that.
So you could just define the element without doing anything like append or pop.
Exactly. In a dictionary, if you know the key, you can go in the dictionary, go find that key, and replace the element associated with that key just by doing something like this.
Okay, but let's say you define the element, let's say in the first line. Can you redefine it later in the second or third line?
You mean like this 7.8?
Right, so you define this element, right? So it's 7.8. And then can you just declare that element and just change it right away without any function?
Actually here we are not using any other function, so I can just go with my dictionary name. And let's say I want to change the value associated with Dusty, and I want to go with 8.2 instead of 7.8. I can do that, and then come here because I want to check if what I've done is correct. This will be Dusty's mass, and I want the value associated with Dusty. If I run this, Dusty's mass now is 8.2.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And to give you even a better look, we can if right now I go in and print my entire dictionary, you will see that the value for Dusty is 8.2 now, and not what I initially defined, and the value for Marry Me is also the one that I redefined. So you can go in with this replacement function or with this replacement command and modify your dictionary as you want.
Okay.
Sound good?
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want you to create a new cell. I want to prepare you for exercise 3. So create a new cell, and let's create a dictionary. I recommend you create the exact dictionary that I'm making, even though its content may not make sense for many of you. So I want curly brackets. My first key is Quentin, and I want the data associated with it to be Tarantino. And then my next key is going to be 2020. And instead of only one data associated with 2020, I want a list to be associated with 2020. So I will go with square brackets, 2020 as a number, COVID as a string, 19 as a number, and then pandemic as a string. Then I will close my square brackets. Then my next key is going to be bond. Let's make that as string. Then another list. This will be James as a string, gun as a string, and then Paris, Tokyo, and London in parentheses. And then we are going to close the brackets because we are still defining one list for data associated with bond, and we are going to close our curly brackets because we were still defining our dictionary. So this is confusing, and that is on purpose. How many keys do we have in this dictionary?
3.
3, thank you. The first key is Quentin, the second key is 2020, and the third key is bond. What is the data associated with Quentin?
Tarantino.
Yes. What is the data associated with 2020?
The stuff in the brackets.
Exactly. So 2020, COVID-19, pandemic, all 4 of them as a list are associated with 2020. And with bond? James, gone, Paris, Tokyo, on. Okay. Now, this is called a nested dictionary because we have a combination of objects, of structures within one dictionary. Now, just because we want to make sure that we're doing things right, we'll go ahead and print it. it is giving me an error because I'm probably missing a bracket or parenthesis somewhere.
I think it's your...
Yeah, after Tarantino.
Yes, thank you. Let's give it another shot.
Can you paste that in the chat so we can just copy it? Thank you.
Of course. So, when you print it and it doesn't give you a syntax error and it gives you all the elements the way you want it to be, you're good. Now, let's say that I want to go and explore my dictionary. So, my dictionary's name is FD. I want to go to the key 2020. And if I do that, what do you think I will get?
The list 2020 COVID-19 pandemic.
Actually, yeah, I will get the entire list associated with 2020 if I do that. Now, exactly the same thing. Let's say that I only want the pandemic to be selected. What should I do?
Index number.
Come again?
Like index number. So
very good, very good. So pandemic is located in what position? 0, 1, 2, 3. Yes. So I'll go and put 3, and this time when I run it, it will just give me pandemic. Does it make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah.
So now let us go to our third key and go for bond. What do you think will happen if I go with this? It will give me the entire thing that is associated with bond, which is James, Gunn, Paris, Tokyo, London, all of them. Now, what if I want this to be selected?
Do the same thing as before.
What should I type in?
2.
2. Very good. And this will give me the list. And what if I want Tokyo?
Would you do like... Never mind.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Would you do like... I was going to say like part of that, because when you put it in parentheses, does that make it kind of like one string almost?
When I put it in parentheses, it will make that a tuple. So this is very similar to this, but this is a list because it is square brackets, and this is a tuple because it is in parentheses.
Just add another square bracket with 1.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Now I'm happy. I will give you Tokyo.
When y'all copied and pasted his code onto yours, did it not do anything like mine? Or is it just me?
So let me give you this entire thing and you can give it another try.
Mine worked.
Yeah, mine worked.
Oh.
Cody, are you asking me or are you asking others? Okay. Now I am... Okay, cool. Now I am pretty confident that you know how to deal with nested dictionaries. And give yourself credit for that, because that can be tricky for many people. So the key is to keep track of your keys. So for example, this is Quentin, 2020, and Bond. And then pay attention to the content associated with each key. It could be a list, it could be a tuple, it could be one object, and then you can play around with it. So in exercise, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. So Gun had its own tuple which is the Paris, Tokyo, and London.
You see, for bond, we have data associated with it. This entire thing is the data that we have associated with the word bond, okay? Now, this is a list. The first element in this list is a string James. The second element is a string gun. The third element is a tuple that has 3 strings in it: Paris, Tokyo, London. In that tuple, the first element is Paris, the second element is Tokyo, and the third element is London. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, in exercise 3, from the nested dictionary given below, index and pick the string hello. So this is given to you, and you are supposed to come up with a way to print hello. This is basically what we talked about here. Okay? Cool. Let us move on to the more challenging part of today's lab. You have a question? I just heard bruh. I don't know what that means.
Can you send me your IN18? I didn't do that part.
Which one?
In the group chat. Your IN18.
I'm not sure.
That
exercise
one right
1, exercise 2, or what?
That one right there. Right in front of you.
The one with the dictionaries? Do you want the entire thing?
He's talking about line 8.
Yeah, line 18.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Here you go.
Line 34 will help too.
You guys know that you have access to these videos, right? Here you go. So, let's go to conditional execution. So, as Dr. Cleveland has already described this for you, we are dealing with a bunch of logical statements that you will use as conditions to manage how your script will proceed. So, as a very, very simple example, let's say that we want to separate a group of people and send them to watch their the most appropriate movie for them in a theater. So we are setting up a machine for Cinemark, and someone comes to the theater and she has no idea what movie she wants to watch. She just is looking for recommendations. So that machine will start asking questions, and based on the answers for each question, eventually the machine will give her a recommendation. So for example, the machine asks for her age. If she is less than 15, the machine will go one step ahead and start asking for whether she is into like real-life movies or animations. If she is into animations, the machine will go one more step ahead and ask whether she is interested in a Disney movie or a Marvel movie, and so on. So, using these simple equal, non-equal, smaller than, larger than, we can control the flow of our scripts, of our codes. So, let me go ahead and see. Yeah, this one that is already implemented in your notebook is a very, very good example. So let's say we have an object with the value of 7. We have an object with a value of 10. And these orders, the first one will just print the value of x and y. The second one is checking whether x is equal to y. If they are equal, it will be true. Since they are not equal, you will see false. Next one, we'll check if they are not equal. So, since 7 and 10 are not equal, you will see true here. then you are checking whether x is greater than y. X is 7, y is 10, so the answer will be false. And then you're checking whether x is less than y, which it is, and then it comes out as true. Now, for logical operators, these are some other examples that are implemented in your notebook. You don't have to type these, you can only look at them and run them. So, when we use AND, we are looking at two statements, a statement A and a statement B. When we use AND, it will only be true if both of them together is true. If only one of them is true, it will not work. So, for example, it is checking if 5 is equal to 5 and at the same time 5 is less than 6. Since both of them are true, the final answer will be true. The second one is OR. OR will work even if only one of them is true. So you are looking at statement A and statement B. If A is true, regardless of what is happening with B, the statement will be true. So, for example, this one is checking whether 4 is greater than 3 or 17 is greater than 20. So, we know that 17 is not greater than 20, but because the first statement is true, the ultimate outcome will be true. And then this not logical operator is basically like a reverse on whatever you do. So 5 is equal to 5. This statement should be true, but because we have not there, this statement will be false. So whatever it is in front of it, not will make that reverse. 10 seconds for questions. Okay, now we'll get to a block of if statement. So a block of if statement is another extremely useful thing that you need to know when you want to write scripts. So basically, Hunter, did we work on exercise 3 or just pass? No, we do not pass things here. We worked on a nested example of Quentin Tarantino, and then you are basically asked to do exactly the same thing with another nested dictionary that is given to you. So you know what to do with that. And if you can just look at the video and follow that. So in an if statement block, you basically are defining a set of conditions and then actions associated with each condition. So, if condition 1 is met, if the person who comes to your movie recommending machine is below 18, then do an action associated with that. Or only recommend movies that are for that age group. Else if, it means that if condition 1 is not met, look for condition 2. If condition 2 is true, then do action B. If condition 2 is also not true, look for condition 3. If condition 3 is true, do action C. If none of the conditions that I've already defined, condition 1, 2, and 3, are true, then you will do E. So when you think about it, it's a very common and practical logic that we live by every day. The only part that you may find a little uncomfortable is communicating that with your code. And we will be here to help you with that. So, here again, you already have this. So try to just follow me and let me know if you have a question. Initially, we will ask for user input. We are asking our user to select either number 1 or number 2. As simple as that. So your user will see an interface and will be asked to enter 1 or 2. Here you are defining your if block. You're saying that if user input is equal to 1, this is your condition 1. So if your user enters 1, what should I do? You should print hello world and print how do you do. That's it. These 2 lines are the actions associated with condition 1. Else if the user did not input 1, but condition 2 is true, input 2, what should I do? You should print snakes on a plane. And then if the user do not put 1 or do not put 2, you're not going to taunt them. You're just going to say that you did not enter a valid number. Now let's see what happens if I run this. Enter the number 1 or 2. If I enter 1 and click enter, be sure that you click or hit enter. It will say, hello world, how do you do? And if I run this again, and I hit 2, it will say snakes on a plane. And if I run it again, and I just don't know how to follow the simple piece of instruction, and I say 5, it will tell me in a very polite manner that I did not enter a valid number. This is how... Steban, what was that?
I think mine is wrong. I'm trying to fix it right now.
Are you getting an error?
I'm just not getting like the output of you did not enter a valid number or hello world or snakes on the plane.
So let's do this. I want you to click on the cell and click on run. It should give you this, right?
Yes, it gives me that.
So enter 1 and then hit enter. What happens?
Okay. Hello world, how do you do?
Okay.
I had fixed it. I needed to add the else.
Okay. Okay. So this was not actually discussed, but since Dr. Cleveland is here, I'm gonna suggest this, and he can let us know what he thinks. I think it would be a simple, good training for you if you just copy this entire cell block into a new cell, and you fill in these sentences and actions with your own. So you can just decide what you want your user to input. Even you can go with more than 1 or 2. You can go with 0, 1, 2, 3. But for each condition, you need to come up with different sentences to be printed out. And that will be something that you can turn in as an extra exercise or extra credit.
So you have to make your own, is what you're saying there?
Yes, you just copy this entire block so you don't have to write it from scratch. But what I need you to do is to get creative with this piece of code and ask for inputs and define actions associated with each condition. Dr. Cleveland, what do you think about this?
Okay, there's your exercise 5 that was missing.
Yeah, actually yes. The RoboCop example will be very similar to this. So that's just something for you out there. Now, this was one way of defining an if block. Another way would be to do the entire thing in one line. And while to some people this looks way more organized and neater, some find it a little confusing and prefer to go with that. Eventually, the ultimate outcome will not be different. So in this format, you will ask your notebook to do task A if a condition is there. And if it's not there, it will do task B. Same logic behind both formats. Now, let us move on to exercise 4. Click on the cell for exercise 4 and create a new cell. We want to generate a piece of code that will ask for 3 grades that a student has achieved in a semester and compute the average score of that student, and then decide whether that student will pass or fail the course. So, if we want to begin, we need those 3 grades. So we'll go with lesson 1 equal to, as an integer, input. We want our user to read, enter the grade for lesson 1. Same for lesson 2. Actually, it will be better if you copy it, it's safer. Make sure that this will be lesson 2. And then lesson 3. So at this point, the notebook has asked our user to enter 3 numbers, one after each other, for lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3. Then we want to compute an average, which will be an integer of the value, the grade of lesson 1, plus the value of lesson 2, plus the value of lesson 3, and then divided by 3 to get the average score. And you can add this so that your user will see their average grade. And then with a simple if block, we will say if our average is greater than or equal than 5, greater than 5, you want to print passed, or just pass. And then else you want to print fail. Just remember that when I was designing this example, I was thinking of grades in a scale of 0 to 10. So now if I run this, it will ask for the grade of lesson 1. And let's say the student that we're talking about got A for lesson 1. And then for lesson 2, a 7. And for lesson 3, a 9. It will print out the average grade of the student. And then, based on this if statement block, it will say if it's above 5, then they will pass. Do you have any questions about this cell that we just created?
This is what exercise 4 is asking you to do.
Exercise 4, I will get to that. This is a sample very similar to exercise 4. So since I'm not hearing any questions about this one, I'm going to move and read this for you. So a student will not be allowed to sit in exam if his or her attendance is less than 75%. Take the following inputs from the user. So you want to generate a piece of code that asks for the number of classes that was held and the number of classes that the student attended. Then you will calculate the percentage by dividing the number of classes attended over classes total multiplied by 100. And then you will use this percentage to decide whether the student will be allowed to sit in the exam or not. Does that make sense? Let's say we had a total of 50 classes. And the student has been in 40 of those 50 classes. If I calculate this percent attended, it will be 40 over 50, or 80%. Since 80% is above 75%, that student will be allowed to take the test. So this will be very similar to what we did here. Instead of asking for the grade as input, you will ask for number of classes that were held and number of classes attended. And instead of calculating the average, you will calculate the percent attended. And then by using a very simple if block, you will decide whether it's above 75% and they are allowed, or it's below 75% and they are not allowed to take the test. So that will be your exercise 4. There is a counting issue here that takes you directly to exercise 6, but you generally have 5 exercises, so let me actually change this. You can do the same thing. So, exercise 5, again, Dr. Cleveland has already explained this to you, is very similar to what we did, and I think you will find it pretty easy because the script for it is already given to you. So there is a RoboCop that is programmed with conditional statements, and there are 3 things that it will do. The 3 actions that it can do is either not giving you a ticket at all, fining you for $100, or fining you for $500. And it works based on these 4 rules. So if your speed is 60 or less, it will not give you a ticket. If your speed is between 61 and 80, it will fine you for $100. And if your speed is above 81, it will give you $500. It will actually fine you $500. And the 4th rule says that if it is your birthday, your speed can be higher by a value of 5. So let's say it is my birthday and the RoboCop caught me going like 63 miles per hour. Usually I should have been fined $100, but since it's my birthday, instead of 60 I could go up to 65, and since I was only going 62 or 63, I will not be fined in that case. So, you want to you have gained access to the script running behind this RoboCop. You want to go in and manipulate it in a way that if the speed is between 75 and 85, it will give you a fine of $100. And then if speed is 86 or more, the result is $500. So this script is given to you. You have to go in and modify it in a way that it will do what you want. And as a small hint, you will only have to choose 2 values, 2 numbers in this entire script. I'm not going to say more, but if you follow the examples that we've already done, and if you follow this script, you will, I'm sure you will find out. So, I think our official time for this lab is over, but if you have any questions about any of the exercises, or if you're having any issues and you want to come to a separate Zoom meeting, let me know so that I can create the link. How do I save the lab? If you click on this green button that says save, it will be saved in your project folder on Cookout, so you can come back to it. when will the video be uploaded by? Usually Dr. Cleveland upload them within 24 hours or 48 hours.
Yeah.
On the exercise we just did.
Which one? The last one?
The one where you got the 3 lessons.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if yours is any different, but mine says invalid syntax.
Then you have invalid syntax. I got to terminate the call. But
okay, so guys, email me if you have any questions, or come to my office hours tomorrow morning. Okay?
Thank you for your attention. Goodbye. Have a great day.
Bye. Be safe.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay. Stop that.